Linda has worked in the hearing care industry since 2011 and is currently a registered hearing aid practitioner at Audiology Innovations. And you might recognize that name from previous presentations from her colleague, Dr. Carrie Scarf, who's been a longtime friend of Prostate Calgary. Linda is a training lead and works closely with Dr. Scarf. So it's with great pleasure that we welcome Linda and her table of goodies.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So today, I just want to thank everyone for joining us online, as well as for everyone that took time to come here tonight and learn a little bit more about hearing and hearing health. Tonight, I would like to just remind you about how we hear, as well as what we need to do if we think we might have a hearing loss. So first of all, I just want to introduce the team to you. We have Dr. Carrie Scarf that heads up the team. Dr. Carrie Scarf opened Audiology Innovations almost 14 years ago, and we are still an independently owned practice, and all of us work together as a team, together with Dr. Scarf, to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we treat everyone in the same way. So my name, as you know, is Linda Vorster, and myself, as well as my colleague Natalia Kuneli and Elan Feldman, we are registered hearing aid practitioners, and we are board certified hearing instrument specialists, and we have over 28 years of shared experience between all of us, so you are definitely in good hands. We also have Bryce Metz, who is our audiology assistant. We have different practices all over Calgary, and we also have a practice in Red Deer, and we have a mobile clinic as well. So all of us work together on the same system. So if you have to go to another clinic because you moved, or if you cannot visit us at any one of our practices, just know that between our mobile service and our practices that is evenly spread over Calgary, we will be able to help you. So with all of that, let's start and recap a little bit about how we hear. So I just want to go back to our biology classes a couple of years ago, where we were taught about the anatomy of the ear. So this is a very, very complex system that needs to work together in order for us to know and understand sound and understand speech. So say, for example, there's a knock on the door. The sound will travel through the ear canal, and it will set the eardrum into motion as it will start to vibrate. The sound will then be transferred to the three little tiny bones in the middle ear, which in turn moves the sound along into the cochlea. The cochlea looks like a little snail shell, but inside the cochlea there's thousands of little hair cells, and they vibrate and move and bend and take the information and send it up the auditory nerve to tell your brain, oh, there's a knock on the door. So you can imagine how fast this should happen in order for our brains to know exactly what is going on. So to understand hearing loss, we need to focus on those little hair cells that we have inside of the cochlea. Because most of us, when we have a hearing loss, usually it is because of those little hair cells that deteriorates within the cochlea. There you can see a very nice picture of how normal hair cells looks, damaged hair cells, and then severely damaged hair cells. So if these little hair cells are not strong enough, they cannot take the information and send it to the brain. So that is when we experience a hearing loss. So there is a couple of basic signs and symptoms of hearing loss, things that you can ask yourself to just identify whether you might have a hearing loss or not. One important thing is asking people to repeat themselves, turning up the TV or the radio. If you have difficulty hearing when people have their backs turned towards you. And this is a very important one, because if you accuse people of mumbling, you probably have a hearing loss, and it's not always the person that cannot speak clearly or enunciate clearly. Then if you have difficulty with conversation in background noise, that is definitely a very important symptom or sign that you might have a hearing loss. And also one of the most popular indications is people come to us and say, look, when I'm at this social event, there's too much background noise. I cannot understand what people are saying. Something else called tinnitus or tinnitus is a ringing sound in your ear, usually perceived as a very high-pitched ringing tone that's just constantly there in the background. That might also be an indication that you might have hearing loss. If you are struggling to hear people from a distance, or if you just feel that speech in general is really unclear, then you might consider, or hopefully consider, to come in for a hearing assessment. So, did you know that nearly half, which is 48% of Canadians over the age of 60 have difficulty hearing speech correctly? 70% of people are completely unaware of their hearing loss. And because hearing loss is so gradual, we make accommodations without realizing it. And that is things like using visual cues to hear people better, so we start to lip read. Or we turn our head to hear with or listen with our better ear. Those are things that we do without realizing it that makes us think that we are hearing perfectly fine because we are accommodating our hearing loss. It can take people between 7 and 10 years to come and sit in that seat in front of me and talk about hearing loss and hearing aids. That's quite a long time, and I believe with my many years of experience that it is because there's a stigma behind hearing aids and that people do not want to put a hearing aid on their ear, but they would most rather put a pair of glasses on and carry on with their day. So it is about getting the confidence in reaching out for hearing help. When do you need to take action? Well, as soon as you notice any signs of hearing loss. Feeling you can hear but not understand because you aren't getting all the sound frequencies or all the parts of words correctly. If you have loss of clarity, or if it requires a lot of effort for you to listen. So this is very, very important because hearing loss is something that can affect us in many, many ways, not just in the way of how we need to hear. Hearing loss can increase our risk of fall. It can aggravate or increase depression, and this is also a very important one. Hearing loss is also linked to dementia. So dementia and hearing loss has been something that was somewhat vague in the last couple of years. But since 2017, we have seen a lot of research studies coming out and supporting the idea that hearing loss and dementia is definitely linked, or that hearing loss is a contributing factor to cognitive decline. For example, in 2017, there was a study done where they did a lot of research about the fact that hearing loss is one of the top modifiable risk factors for dementia in middle age and beyond. In 2020, Lancet did another very exciting study where they concurred and they came together and they said, yes, hearing loss is still definitely one of the modifiable factors of dementia. The exciting study for me was last year, because it took us quite a long time to get enough people together to do a study that has numbers behind it. So in 2023, Lancet did another research study where they took larger groups of people with a mild to moderate hearing loss. So that's important, because it doesn't mean that, you know, your brain will only be affected when you have a severe or profound hearing loss. It means that if you have a mild to moderate hearing loss, there can also be risk factors involved. So anyway, they took these two groups of people, and half of them were fitted with hearing aids, and the other half were not fitted with hearing aids. And then after some period of time, they did cognitive testing on these people. And those ones that were fitted with hearing loss did a lot better with their cognitive functioning than those who were not fitted with hearing aids. So as adults, we are affected, or we are more likely to be affected by hearing loss in relation to our cognitive development. Why? Because our brains as young adults are already developed in a certain way. And then suddenly, if we have a hearing loss, we are not stimulating certain parts of the brain that we need to stimulate when we receive auditory information. So brain cell structures neuropathy without stimulation, which means that the brain actually restructures itself as we get older because it's not being used. And it comes down to that very important thing about if we don't use it, we lose it. So that is what it comes down to if we don't use our auditory functioning and that part of the brain, we lose some of the ability to use that part of the brain. Social isolation is something that directly links to cognitive health. So if you're someone that's struggling to hear in a noisy environment, and I've seen it many times in the clinic, usually those people just take themselves out of the conversation, or they just don't want to go to the social event anymore because it's embarrassing. They have to ask people to repeat themselves, or they're laughing at a joke that wasn't really a joke, or they try to fill in the gap and they hear something completely different, right? So why not rather just stay at home? Well, if we do that, we lose that social connection and means of communication that our brains need in order to stay functional. And then the cognitive load. So I don't know if any of you have ever noticed that if you're struggling to hear, that you feel really tired after a while. And it's not really always just because you're tired or need to take a nap, but it's because your brain is working so hard to comprehend what is going on around you. So cognitive load and fatigue is something that There's currently a lot of research being done about, and just by wearing hearing aids, for example, you will feel more focused and involved in those social environments. So some good tips for auditory functioning over a lifespan is, first of all, everyone should get a hearing test done from the age of 45 and up, whether you think you have a hearing loss or not. We always go and have our eyes tested. We go and check our blood pressure. We make sure that we check our sugar levels. But why not just go for a hearing test and get a baseline and monitor that over the years? So that's very important. And then get tested when suggested. So when that friend tells you, you missed what I said a couple of times, maybe you should go for a hearing test. Or the wife tells you, you have to go for a hearing test because I really think this is beyond selective hearing. Then it's very, very important that you listen to that and come in and have your hearing tested. The other important thing to do is, for those of you who already have hearing aids, is to wear those hearing aids. And we had the conversation earlier, people give up way too quickly. So unfortunately, we are living in a world where we want instant gratification. When I put my glasses on, I want to see better. When I put my best winter coat on, boy, I better not get cold when I go outside because this thing it needs to take away -23 cold. So it's instant gratification. And with hearing aids, unfortunately, that is not the way it works. Because we are working with the brain, our brain needs to relearn how to hear what it needs to hear. You have been used to hearing in a certain way for such a long time, and suddenly we put hearing aids on your ears, and the brain is going to tell you, everything is too loud, what is this noise, I cannot handle it, take it off, I'm done. And that is not the right approach. In one of our clinics, well, in all of our clinics, we focus on the acclimatization process of getting new hearing aids. So it's a process. You have to be fitted, you have to come back, then we adjust the hearing aids accordingly until we reach that target where your hearing aids are programmed according to your prescription level, and then you will hear so much better. But please don't give up on those hearing aids. It's not an instant fix. It takes time. You just need to be patient. And then this is one of my favorite tips, because even if you're just not ready for hearing aids yet, it's important to listen. Listen to music. Listen to podcasts. Go to the movies. Listen to the movie. Go to the theater. Go out and listen to music. We need to use our ears in order to continue to stimulate the brain and to stay and to make sure we don't lose the functionality of listening. So what to do if you think you have a hearing loss? First of all, choose a trusted professional group who will do more than just a hearing screening. So if you have your hearing test done, it is important to know that there's practices who will do a quick hearing test where you just press a button when you hear a beep, and then on that graph they will tell you you have a hearing loss or you don't have a hearing loss. Well, hearing testing is actually much more than that. You need to do a speech test, and we need to have a look at your middle ear, and we need to know how well you hear in noise, and whether you are actually a candidate for a hearing aid, and what you can expect with hearing aids. So just be careful when you book your test that you make sure, is this a comprehensive hearing assessment or is it just a quick hearing test? So that's very important. So at Audiology Innovations, we focus on person-centered care. So we need to find out what your expectation is with hearing aids so that we can bring those two together. So that's another conversation you should have with your hearing care professional. Sometimes we do have a bit of a high expectation with hearing aids. We think that when we walk into a noisy room, the noise will just go down and I will just hear speech. And depending on the type of hearing aid you select, we have to bring your expectation and what the hearing aid will be able to do for you together. And then we spoke about the testing. Speech testing is a very important test. So wherever you go for your hearing assessment, make sure that you do a speech test and a speech in noise test, because that will form a really important base for your hearing aid programming. Myths about hearing aids. They don't work. Well, I think that if you think back about what I said about patience, yes, they will work. Just take a little bit of time and be patient. They will definitely work. Then the other thing that I spoke about already is that it does take our brain a little time to just adjust to those hearing aids. So make sure that your expectation and what your hearing aid can do comes together. They are too expensive. And I really agree with this one. Hearing aids are extremely expensive, but there's different options available. At Audiology Innovations, we have many different plans. We have literally sat together as a team and figured out different ways of how people can afford hearing aids. Because at the end of the day, it's about you hearing, and it's about not stressing about the finances behind it, but to know that we are there to support you in choosing the right plan and option plan for you. We also work together with the Campbell McLaurin Foundation. That is a foundation that can support people that cannot afford hearing aids at all. So we help you to complete the forms and we take you through the process. So if there's someone that you think of that might not even be able to afford any form of hearing aids, you can also send them our way and we will be able to help them. All right, so just before I end off, I just want to just focus on hearing aids specifically. So hearing aids is not a one-stop shop. We need to see what hearing aid will suit your hearing loss. And then we look at all the different options. Hearing aids these days are rechargeable, so you don't need to worry about changing batteries. They are Bluetooth compatible, and if you don't like Bluetooth and you're not tech-wise, then we just put them on automatic and they will do what they need to do. But if you want to listen to that podcast, or if you want to listen to their music, or take your phone calls through your hearing aids, or stream your television sound into your hearing aids, the hearing aids is able to do that as well. They are also, some of them are waterproof. So if you want to sit in the hot tub and have that conversation, you can do that as well, and hear while you're relaxing in the hot tub without worrying about your hearing aids getting damaged. So there's a lot of options. We just need to find the right one for you and that suits your lifestyle. One very interesting type of a hearing aid that was launched within this month in Canada is a hearing aid called the Oticon Sphere. And it was kind of groundbreaking for us because this was the first hearing aid that came out with 2 microchips. One that focuses only on noise reduction, and the other that does what a hearing aid needs to do. So because most of our patients struggle to hear in a noisy environment, this is a really nice option to know that my hearing aid will take away at least 10 decibels in a noisy environment as soon as I enter the room. Well, isn't that great? Because we're always looking for something that works very similar to noise cancelling devices, and now we've got that built into our hearing aids too. So tinnitus is something that we can do a whole presentation on by itself, but if you have tinnitus, just know that there is help, and hearing aids can definitely help with the tinnitus, although there's other things that can contribute towards the ringing sound in your ear. For example, trauma to your neck, other diseases, medications that you're taking. So it's not just the hearing loss, but hearing loss can definitely form part of your tinnitus management program, and hearing aids can also help you in relieving the tinnitus. But you need to talk to your hearing care professional about this, and then we work out a program for you that takes a little bit of time, but we focus on the trigger points and how we can program your hearing aids to help you with the ringing in the ears. Right, so a take-home message that I would like you to remember is that if you have a hearing loss, or you know of someone with a hearing loss, bring them in for a hearing evaluation. If you're not ready for hearing aids, that is okay. But if you know your hearing status, at least you've dived into one of those 7 to 10 years where we can get to the point to get hearing aids on your ears and to help you to hear better. And then choose the right clinic. So make sure you do your research. Make sure you know the type of testing that your practitioner is going to do, and that you feel confident in the person that's going to work with you, because this process is not a once-off process. And if you go to a clinic where you just see it's a once-off process, you should probably find someone that can help you and support you a little bit more. And then remember, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So Audiology Innovations, just to end off, has won several awards. And I think it's because, or I know it's because Dr. Scarf really puts her heart and soul into all her practices. She's local, and she believes in supporting the people of Calgary and around, and our practices is very much a family type of an environment where we want to invite you in, and we want to take your hands and walk on with you on your journey of getting better help with your hearing. So we also have a Facebook page. You're more than welcome to look us up on Facebook, and there we do put information on hearing aids, and we put informative videos on there as well. And yes, if you want us to contact you, please reach us on our website. Or you can phone us, and we will send information to you that you need. So that is it for me for tonight. I hope everyone could hear me and that I didn't speak too fast with my South African accent. But I'm really thankful that we could share a little bit about hearing and create some awareness tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
You're not done yet.
I'm not.
Because you got questions.
Of course. Yes, please. If there's anyone with questions, I'm here. Yes.
Is talking too loudly an indication of hearing?
Yes, it is. That's a very good question. And when we have a hearing loss, we speak loudly because we cannot hear the tone of our own voice. And therefore, it's one of those things that we are accommodating our hearing loss. So we are speaking louder so that we can hear better. Definitely. Yeah.
So I've had my hearing tested, and they say it's good.
Okay.
When do I have to? That's, my listening is different. My hearing is good. I just don't listen. When should I go back?
Good question. So we do advise that you have your hearing tested every 12 to 18 months. If you can just book it in as an annual while you're going to have everything else checked, just book your hearing assessment in as well.
If one has tinnitus, is it curable, and would a hearing aid just make the ringing louder? You had mentioned that you
Yes,
not,
good
maybe
question.
talk about how that
Yes.
works. Maybe?
So the short answer is there is no definite cure for tinnitus, but there's a lot of things that we can do to help with the tinnitus. I do have many patients who perceive their tinnitus a lot softer, if not inaudible, with their hearing aids in. The hearing aids cannot increase the tinnitus. What we're doing with the hearing aid is that we are stimulating the hair cells that's lying flat, and that's continuously sending that signal to the brain. So we are stimulating them so they can stand up, and the brain knows, okay, I don't need to focus on hair cells that's giving me the wrong information. I need to focus on what I need to hear around me. And by wearing your hearing aids more often, or as much as you can, we can retrain the brain to put the sound of the tinnitus way back into the brain and not focus on it. So yes, there's a lot of research about hearing aids and tinnitus, and it can definitely help. Some people, it takes away the tinnitus to a point where they cannot hear it, but if they don't use their hearing aids, it comes back. Or maybe they're more stressed one day and then their tinnitus comes back. So there's a lot of factors that contributes to it, but hearing aids is a good start to start with relief of the tinnitus.
Thanks. And the other one was how big a problem is it for those patients whose ears produce a lot of wax?
Yes. So earwax management, again, can be a whole presentation on itself. Everyone's ears produces wax differently. And if you are prone to having earwax in your ears, you should go to your doctor every year to have your ears rinsed out and talk to your hearing care professional so that we can advise you on how to maintain the earwax. And if you have earwax in your ears, it can also aggravate the tinnitus or the ringing in the ears. So making sure those ear canals are nice and clean is important. Please do not use a Q-tip to try and remove the earwax. You will only push it deeper into the ear. I always say nothing smaller than your elbow should go into your ear. So first thing, you can visit us for a hearing assessment so that we can look into the ears, and from there on we can put together a plan to maintain the earwax.
Yeah, three questions, so maybe it's 3 parts. How long typically does a pair of hearing aids last before someone needs to move up to the next model?
Okay.
And is that a full cost replacement? Second piece is, if you lose 1, 2, can you replace 1, presumably at what cost?
Yeah.
And the third part is, when do you anticipate the system might have available a little app that's Find My Hearing Aid?
Oh, good questions, all 3 of them. I'll answer them to the best that I can. So, first of all, your hearing aids, if you lose 1, you can definitely get another one. Hearing aids, well, out of experience, I usually see everyone upgrades their hearing aids every 5 to 7 years. And the reason for that is mainly because of newer technology that becomes available. So I have patients that have worn their hearing aids for 10 years because they take really good care of them. They don't want new technology, and they are doing the maintenance on the hearing aids. So remember, like a car, you have to take it in for a service every year to make sure that all the parts are working right. So you cannot expect your hearing aids to last you a long time if you do not bring it in for a service, come in for your annual assessment, making sure that your hearing aids are functioning correctly. But overall, I do see every 5 to 7 years people changing hearing aids because they want better technology, and because we usually see a big jump in hearing aid technology every 5 to 7 years.
So the cost is basically $1,000 a year.
The service cost, usually it comes under warranty. So usually you will get a 2-year service cost that's included. And after that, it won't necessarily come down to $1,000. It depends on the type of hearing aid you have.
I'm thinking you pay $5 or $6 for a decent, and then 5 or 6 years later you pay.
Oh, yeah. So it depends on the technology as well, where you want to jump to. The other thing is, yes, if you lose one hearing aid, you can definitely get another one. You just need to marry them again. So we need to put them in the system as a pair and program them with according to your hearing loss. And then the newest hearing aids that I spoke about, and there's other hearing aids that is not so new, have a Find My Hearing Aid app. Yes, so if you lose your hearing aid, you can go into your app and it will take you to your hearing aid. So yes. Fantastic. Okay.
And now they have chip technology, so you should be able to just take the old chip out and put the new one in there.
Well, that's a good comment, because with the newer technology, what we find is that you can update the software on the hearing aid. So as the manufacturers makes improvements on the hearing aids, and as you see us yearly for your assessment, we make sure that there's no improvements on the software, and if there's improvements, we just download it onto your hearing aids. But the big jump is things like this hearing aid now has 2 microchips, so we cannot update that on your hearing aid. So then we do sometimes see people changing technology completely. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yes, sorry, there first.
What would be your recommendation? Like I was talking to you earlier, I have hearing aids and I put them in and I can't wear them. But all the things you talked about that should have happened, I got hearing aids and I was the end of it. And
Yeah.
what would be your recommendation moving forward?
Just to start over. Just go onto a new page, have your hearing tested, and then start the process over. You can still use your hearing aids. You don't need to buy new ones. We just need to reprogram them, and we need to explain things a bit better to you so that you feel more confident and motivated to wear your hearing aids. So I would say just start over with your process and then take it from there.
Okay. So I'll come and see you.
Yeah.
How often will Alberta Health pay for a hearing test?
So when it comes to hearing aids, they do provide $900 towards hearing aids every 5 years if you are above the age of 65. So that is something you get anyway. With a hearing assessment, Yes, a hearing test, they should cover 1 a year, but it all depends on, what process you follow. So usually we give you the invoice of the hearing assessment and you submit that to Alberta Health and they will reimburse you.
How much is the cost of that?
A hearing assessment is usually around $75. And then that is a full hour of comprehensive testing.
And how often do you recommend we have one?
I would say every year, so between 12 and 18 months, but if you know you have a hearing loss, I would say every year so we can monitor it.
Would you suggest we go to another company from the first, or stick with the same company all the way on?
It depends if you feel comfortable with that practitioner or not. Like what I believe with my patients is a relationship is really important. You need to trust me, and if you feel comfortable with your practitioner and you feel you're getting the support, stay with that person and walk the path with that person. At the end of the day, it's about hearing better. And if you feel comfortable with your practitioner and you feel supported, then stay with that person.
Companies have more than one practitioner. Some have like 6 and 7.
Yes, that's the unfortunate thing about bigger companies, but smaller independent companies like Audiology Innovations, we have more of a family-centered approach. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Excuse me, do the results of the hearing test go on your My Alberta Health record?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. Anyone else? Yes.
I was just going to say, Alberta Health will test your hearing as well.
Yes, they will. So you can go to the hospital and have your hearing tested there as well. I believe they work on a completely different system, but they do not. What I know, and please I can be corrected because I've been in Canada for 2 years, but what out of my experience is that a lot of those people who have their hearing tested at a hospital brings their hearing assessments to us, and then we sit with them and we go through those tests, and then we go the hearing aid route from there onwards. Thank you.
It's sometimes, I felt I started there with hearing test because I wanted what I thought was an independent
Yes.
opinion
Yes.
rather than going to a company that was selling
right? Yeah.
hearing aids.
Yeah,
So I
which
felt
is-
better about starting there.
Which is fair, and that's the thing about hearing health is you need to be comfortable with the person or the process that you choose. Yeah.
Nothing else on chat?
Last
Nope.
one there? Yes.
But you've answered my question already, and that was, I can hear quite well individuals.
Yes.
They're upstairs in our little meeting, 3 or 4 people.
Yes.
No, once I'm in the surrounding room, I do feel that I'm not hearing properly.
Yes.
Because if somebody, all these people were laughing, what was happening?
Exactly. And you know what? It is something that not only you are struggling with, a lot of people don't talk about it. They just keep it inside and they feel frustrated. They don't share that. And it is because you might have a hearing loss and those little hair cells are just not strong enough to pick up certain frequencies because the noise is masking all of that. So with a hearing aid, we can help you to hear better in those environments. But yeah, it's important to note that and to do something about it, because even if you can hear one-on-one, it does not mean that you do not have a hearing loss. Yes.
Are there any tests to determine the health of the hair cells?
There is no test where we can determine the health of the hair cells, but through doing the hearing assessment, we can see whether they are functioning within a normal capacity or if there is a mild, moderate, or severely or profound loss of those hair cells. So in a way, we are testing whether they are healthy or not. But that is what we do with your hearing assessment. But there's nothing that we go internally into the cochlea and do a little test in there. We just do it through the response of the hair cells through the test. We also do tests where we test the functioning of the nerve, which everything is connected at the end of the day.
One of the features I like is the Bluetooth thing,
Yes.
where you could, if you use your cell phone a lot, you could pair it to the phone and also to your television.
Yes, that's a really nice feature, especially for those of you who can't really sleep a lot or you up strange hours of the morning and you just want to watch a little bit of TV, but you do not want to disturb the whole household, you can just stream the sound into your hearing aids and no one else can hear it. So that's nice.
Pluses and minuses.
Pluses and minuses, yes. We'll keep it at you're stimulating the brain and you're listening. So we'll keep it at that.
I was thinking more of the other person who might be present in the room has no idea what is transpiring.
Yes, so if you put the volume up on the TV, they'll still hear. Yes.
I'm more worried about the chip technology because we all know it can be hacked.
Oh.
And if Wendy ever hacked it,
Did you have another question or?
Yeah, what did he just say?
oh, that's so good.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. But please, if there's any more questions, we would love for you to take a little bag. We have some information in there, so please don't leave without it because we put it together especially for you. So please grab one before you leave. And we also have a list, which we would really appreciate it if you put your name and details on there. We have a fantastic newsletter that Dr. Scarf sends out, and we would love to send that to you as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.